My name is Tom Nicolson. I live in Melbourne. I'm an artist who was trained in drawing, and a lot of the things that I do and think about begin in drawing, though they often end up in other media. Comparative Monument Shellal, this work at the Art Gallery of New South Wales, is the first time I've ever made a mosaic work. The Shellal mosaic is one of the most remarkable mosaics of the Byzantine period, so early Christian period, 6th century. And it's a very particular mosaic because it was discovered by Australian soldiers by accident on a hilltop close to Gaza in 1917, where two trenches had exposed fragments of this mosaic, and they slowly uncovered it and then decided to bring it back to Australia, where it became the foundational visual object of the Australian War Memorial. It consists of an array of different animals: flamingos, lions, tigers, peacocks, which are all symbols for different values or virtues that would govern our shared conduct. So it doesn't really look like a Christian mosaic. There's no pictures of Christ on it, but it has this amazing animal cosmology in it, which is drawn from Hellenic sources, but also from Nile iconography in a range of different places. The second mosaic that's really important to this project, and that's fascinating for me, is a mosaic which is also in the Australian War Memorial and which decorates the dome of the Hall of Memory, which is the principal commemorative space of the War Memorial. And in part responding to the presence of the Shellal mosaic in the War Memorial, I began to think about what it would be to reconstitute the Shellal mosaic with tiles from Napier Waller's dome mosaic. So in other words, to very, very accurately reconstitute the Shellal mosaic, tile for tile, but using tiles drawn from another mosaic. And this is, of course, a bit playing with what a mosaic is that it's a picture made up of little squares that you can break down and then turn into something else. The realisation of the project was a wonderful and very protracted process, which involved chiefly working with mosaicists at the Mosaic Centre in Jericho, which is in the West Bank. And that's an extraordinary organisation that does a range of different historical restoration and community development work. And so the project really evolved by working with two mosaicists, Renan Baram and Rafat, who both work at the Mosaic Centre. And I would make electronic drawings working with an assistant, Jamie O'Connell, in Melbourne, and then we would send them across to Jericho, where the mosaicists would then work on them. The exhibition here at the Art Gallery of New South Wales mainly consists of the mosaics, which are an attempt to imagine the repatriated form of the Shellal mosaic. And they're displayed in fragments, the same fragments that the Shellal mosaic was broken into to ship it from Palestine to Australia. And they're exhibited almost as if they are in transit. There's one very, very interesting historical photograph from Cairo, which shows the mosaic in transit from Palestine to Australia. And it's an attempt to emulate that photograph, but also to suggest that the final place for this newly constituted mosaic is not here, but that hilltop near Gaza. But there are also two videos which, on the one hand, contextualise the mosaics and tell the story of the Shellal mosaic, but also describe what it is to stand on that hilltop near Gaza, which is something I did very early in the life of the project and which became very formative for the project, because it's a unique place in that landscape where two cities are visible together. Gaza City, which is of course a city that we know well from the violence that's been visited upon it, and Beersheba, which is a very important city, an Israeli city, and which is historically very, very connected to Gaza City, but of course is separated now by the separation wall. And there's something quite remarkable about that hilltop and being able to see those two cities that are historically so connected, but in a contemporary sense so separated, that became quite important for the project. In other words, to think about the mosaic going back there not just as making a new visual object to look at, but also as making a kind of viewing platform to look out from.